women that we serve are first raped between the ages of 7 and 11. They hit the streets as teenagers, where drugs and abuse continue, and addiction set in, and the path in and out of incarceration continue. And so they weren't able to get jobs, so we decided to start a social enterprise. We started, it continued, it began to grow, and we knew we needed to be a national company. On average, we have about 100 women on our waiting list at any given time. We have women writing us from every state, including Alaska and Hawaii, that they need housing, that they need hope, and they need help. And so, really the very, very first national stage that we got to come to and be a part of was offered to us by the ECLA, the youth conference in New Orleans at the Superdome. We were freaking out. We were so excited. And I got there and I got on stage and it was 36,000 kids all grouped into groups of 20 with the same color t-shirts. It's kind of like y'all's group in the green over here and then the pink right here. But this was like everybody. I think so they could keep up with the youth. They just put them all. Y'all must be the wanderers. And so what happened was I stood there with 36,000 kids and it dawned on me that the kingdom of heaven must look like an M&M's bowl. It was so awesome. And it was delicious and happy. And it ended up making friendships for us. We ended up getting to go to Nebraska, to the synod there, to talk to the pastors. That was like 2 years later, where we began, and the whole talk was on thistles. And we brought these bumper stickers that we had just started making saying, "I am a thistle farmer." And this Lutheran pastor / farmer from Nebraska comes up to our table and he looks at me and says, "You know those are weeds, right?" I'm like, I know I sound like I'm dumb. But that's the point. To take these beautiful and lovely and much despised weeds that we all are and remember their beauty and their universality and their great gifts, and to become farmers of that, and to remember there's nothing that we have to leave behind or condemn in the spirit of love. I thank you for the present. What it means to come to an event like this for a group of people struggling to continue to offer living wages and housing and all of that to women, to have this conference at the end of July, our driest season, is huge. Just by inviting us and having us here, you are saving lives. Because of this very event, we have committed next week already for 6 new women to come on board at this conference. Like, I know it's going to go well, and I know I'm thanking you for the future, because like me, when you begin to hear the stories and you begin to meet the women and see what beautiful work they're doing, our connections will continue and our friendships will deepen and all of our lives will be richer by this gift. So thank you. And thank you so much for introducing me to this beautiful, beautiful verse that has convicted me again to rebuild, restore, and renew and repair. What an amazing Bible verse it is, and what an amazing task it is for all of us to think about what it means to really do that and how we're doing it. And preparing for this day and starting to think about what that old path is and that foundation and about how we can move forward together. I was thinking there's plenty of reasons to hold back and be afraid to do that. That is a big task Isaiah is asking us. Of course he has that vision. Of course he thinks it's possible to go and fix and repair these streets and to build up a holy people and to take the brokenness of the world and turn it into a great vision of healing. That's what Isaiah is about. But many, many times I personally feel pretty inadequate to start that task. I feel like the world is so full of brokenness, that it is so massive. If you look just like at Hope International or any international organization, or the statistics that the Lutheran Church puts forward, and you see how many people are trafficked, how many people are abused, how many people are at risk, how many women are suffering domestic violence, what poverty looks like, and you think, I am not up to that task. What does it mean to help a little bit, a drop in the bucket, to help 2 or 3 women in the face of that? I'm also sometimes intimidated by the judgment I fear in others or I offer myself in my work. That at Magdalene, statistically from 2005 to 2012, in any of the 6 houses that we have, where we house about 30 women at a time, our success rate was right at 80% of women staying clean and sober for 2 years to get jobs and housing, to have their children back. And that is an amazing statistic, but it means that about 20% of the women didn't. And when you're talking about intense, small communities, it's hard. And we've buried women who haven't made it. We go to visit them in jail. Had to identify bodies and come to terms with the idea that maybe the scars are too deep, or we don't know what we're doing well enough as a community, or maybe the brokenness of the world is just so heavy, not any community can bear that kind of weight. And I judge myself and others and have to always be reminded about what it means to step forward. So into all that, I think Isaiah was probably speaking to a community much like us. He was speaking to us and saying, together, this is a vision. It's not just for you, or for you, or for you, or for me. It's for us. That we are building on a foundation, that we are restoring, that we are repairing, that we are rebuilding. And so I'm thinking about, what does it take for us to really do that? What kind of idealism, what kind of humility, and what kind of community can help us in that vision? My story is pretty simple. My dad was an Episcopal priest. My mom was a social worker, nurse. They lived in New York City. They had 5 babies. We were all born in New York and Connecticut, as you can tell from my accent. When they had 5 kids between the ages of 2 and 11, my dad was called to start an Episcopal church in Nashville, Tennessee. My mom said, why doesn't God go ahead and call us to hell? So in 1968, they packed the car and their 5 children, and they moved to Nashville, Tennessee, where that same year my father was killed by a drunk driver. Oh, I love y'all. That is so sweet. That is so kind. That was the nicest collective sympathy I've ever felt. That is so nice. So it gets worse. So my mom's left with 5 children, no job in the South, with not much other family, and she has to do a lot of shuffling and reorganizing. And in the process, she gave away everything that my father had. As an Episcopal priest, I know nothing really about his life and ministry. I have no sermons, I have no vestments, I have no recordings. My mom scrambled. She found work as a daycare worker. And one thing she didn't give away of my father's was his prayer book. And that's his prayer book. It's the old version. No one uses it. 1928. I would be in so much trouble for that. 1928, Book of Common Prayer. And so while I knew nothing really about my father, I had this prayer book. And in all his public services, the pages are perfect. Communion, baptism, burials, the pages are fine. But on the private daily offices, all the pages look like this. Worn completely through, with Scotch tape holding them together. And I feel like I knew everything I needed to know about my dad, about his faith and about his courage, about his humility and about his hopes, and about what he was trying to rebuild and repair and restore. And that's the foundation that I'm building on. That's what all of us are building on. We're building in this place of long prayers, of women and generations before us, praying us into being right here, with worn out old pages of prayer books and prayers said over and over and over again, that continue to inspire and hold us up. Like for many people, one tragedy begets another. And so for us, the guy that came into the church as the elder who was the senior warden, they call it in the Episcopal church, then began to sexually abuse me in the church for the next couple of years. That led to a long series of questioning, not about God. That was never my problem. But the institutions and the churches and the control and the power sent me spinning for a very long time. So it makes sense that for a lot of us, we come from broken foundations. We come from broken hearts. And we come into a place where we feel that the foundation that we're building and restoring and working from is a foundation that first starts with gratitude and compassion that can reach out. It made sense to me after I left divinity school and began to be a pastor that I would feel in many ways much more in common with the women walking the streets than my fellow pastors. And that I wanted to be in a space that we could offer sanctuary, that we could heal, and that we could preach. That even though these issues are as old as Isaiah's vision itself, these issues that we're talking about, specifically sexual violence against women that are universal and timeless, just like his vision, it is in coming together and speaking our truth and being honest with one another that we begin this rebuilding and restoration process. Amen.
Amen.
So, for us, it's always about the women. It's been our mission and our focus since the beginning. It's been our hope and our dream that every woman carries a vision and carries a story and carries hope. And also, if we ever take a picture, they're also carrying Thistle Farms products, just so you get kind of a feel for where we're headed with this. That it's important to be able to always remember that all of us are here and gathered for the healing of another. That really what we're building, restoring, and repairing is about is the healing of our hearts. And we do that together. But like most people, the foundation that we're given, I don't know about you and your outreach and justice work in the church, the foundations generally are pretty bad, right? People give you their leftover stuff, whether it's money, time, talent, treasure, and they're like, make something beautiful, restore, repair this. We'll give you the worst that we have. The world will offer you the worst brokenness it knows and says, restore and repair this. Here's a war-torn area. Here's a brokenness you cannot imagine. Here is a building that has been condemned. Good luck. And so all we can do when we receive those kinds of gifts is come together to offer prayer and to pray that the vision of Isaiah lives within us. So for us, what happened was, when we first started Thistle Farms, we started at the Vanderbilt University chapel. We had no overhead. We started with gifts from several individuals and a couple organizations. We've never taken any federal or state funding, and we really want folks to give back to for the gratitude and mercy they've known, and for the women to know that every gift that comes in has been a gift, and it's given freely to them. So, finally, Thistle Farms was big enough. We're currently in 380 stores across the country. And we had to move into a facility. I know, that is so awesome, isn't it? I'm telling you, it's taken forever. It takes a long time. With my extensive business background from divinity school. And people would say, you know, what is your marketing budget? I'm like, oh, we don't need that. So it took us a long time to grow, as you can imagine. So this was the building that we were given. And many of you know that in 2010, Nashville, Tennessee was flooded. There were 19 deaths. Our part of the city was completely flooded. So we bought the building about a week before the flood. I love y'all! Oh my gosh, I'm just going to keep telling you the worst things that ever happened to me. That just preaches so beautifully the collective compassion, y'all. It makes me teary. Thank you. So we bought the building, and I got over there afterwards, and it was just mud. It was the whole area around the building was mud. And there was this single thistle growing up out of it. And it was like, you know, signs are not generally that obvious. And you might as well have had on it, keep going. So this is what the interior of the building looked like, where the floor came up and it was rotting out and there was mold. And we fixed the building up in stages, and it wasn't until this past year we got down to the last part of the building. This had been a beauty shop, and we thought about trying to restore it to a beauty shop, and we realized really what we need to do to restore and rebuild is feed people. And we're going to feed people through a cafe. And I don't know about any of you that do so much great justice and charity work through your churches and communities, but for us it always costs more and takes longer. Have you had that experience? So this took forever. And we really wanted it to be about justice, about tea, and about women. So we decided to collect teacups, and we collected teacups from all over the globe that were stories of survivors and women whose lives had been rebuilt, restored, and repaired. And we came together as a community. We prayed together. We reached out together. We committed to each other. And this month, a year ago this month, we opened the cafe. That floor is old as Isaiah's vision almost. Grown from old trees. It was in a warehouse barn in Carthage, Tennessee, a tobacco barn for 150 years. Wow. It came out and they were like, this is so broken and old it cannot be repaired. And about 100 beautiful volunteers, men and women, came together, tongue and groove, sanded, clean, and made one of the most beautiful floors you'll ever see out of red pine that you cannot even buy. The cabinets were made by men in prison in the Tennessee Department of Corrections. Those beautiful chandeliers that cost about $20 to make. The old tables, one of them from the family of one of the first residents that we ever lost in the program through a relapse and then a kidnapping. Her family brought the table and wanted her to continue to be a part of the story. And so we keep going. And like Becca said from A-Band, we've been trying to make partnerships throughout the world. This is a photo taken about 2.5 weeks ago. It's in Rwanda, and it's at our first partnership with a group called Ikarizi, and it's women who make geranium oils. It's a beautiful